are probably in some ways my most exotic relatives, in that clearly not many people I know have an Uncle Diego. That's an obvious thing. But I suppose also it is about the fact that you have associations with an unusual combination of places. That would be true to say, wouldn't it? So if I can start with you, Auntie Ruth, you grew up in rural Westmoreland Methodism. So I suppose the big question is, how does someone who comes from that background end up in Uruguay? What's the story?
Well, my brother was at Cliff College, and one holiday he invited the Uruguayan home, and the Uruguayan had nowhere else to go, so he accepted and went to my home.
Oh. So at what point then did you first go overseas?
I went overseas in 1966, a long time ago, by boat.
By boat. And so let's try and imagine this. Let's try and imagine you coming from rural, as I say, rural English Methodism, getting on this boat. How do you feel about going somewhere that different? How do you feel when you arrive?
I was scared stiff. So just before that I went to South Wales for a holiday and had a little practice on a little boat on a trip for an hour to see what it would feel like. I don't think I thought that much. I was quite decided I was going to go, and I didn't think, fortunately I think it was a good thing, saved me of all the details. Being out of a situation which was my home situation in Cumbria, you begin to see a lot of things, and you can look at yourself from outside, you know what I mean?
Between 1973 and 1985, we had a military dictatorship, you see, and the idea was that they had to help people not to think. You see, so in our church we help people to think, especially the young people. So one day we were all taken to prison, some for a few days, others for a whole year. I was taken for 18 days, but I think I've never been so close to hell as during those days, being tortured and all that sort of thing. But I knew that God was with me, so that was a terrific value, sustained. Yeah. And once one of the military authorities came to me and said, "Now, little pastor, when are you going to declare all you know?" And I said, "I've said all that you want me to, that you asked me. You know that there's nothing that I've done wrong." So he said, "Okay, you refuse, right. I'll give you until next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, if you still go on with this attitude, we will take you into an open grave, shoot you, and that'll be the end of you." So I said, "Oh, never mind. My wife and my son and daughter will be ever so proud of me, and have no fear, because I'll be going straight to heaven," sort of thing. So, and then I said, "And what about you?" He turned away. I never saw him again. So here I am, alive and well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That was very interesting, the way what you said there about being told that you weren't allowed to think, that being, you know, that thinking was the big threat.
Exactly.
In a sense, the thinking faith. And I wonder sometimes whether in churches we are in danger of not thinking enough. That to some extent we embrace the emotional, but we are scared of asking difficult questions, and whether that is perhaps a danger of the way modern churches come out.
Well, I think that's a danger for churches all over the world, because it's very comfortable to receive the thing as it is, and no questioning. And I think you've got to serve God with all your heart and strength and all the rest, but also with your mind. And that is very, very hard work, especially nowadays. Well, it's always been difficult, but nowadays perhaps the world's changing so much that questioning things is very, very important. And of course, it's much easier not to question things and just go happy-go-lucky. Once I was annoyed with an English Methodist minister who said, nations get the governments they deserve. I think that was the worst thing I could have ever heard, because in our country, for instance, the majority of the population did not want a dictatorship. It was imposed upon them. I think in many ways British Methodism should work on the theme of hospitality, which is something very, very important that we find in the Bible, both Old Testament and New Testament. Old Testament very, very frequently says, give hospitality to the stranger.
Like when we lived in the small towns like in Sarandi and in Salton, the other towns, people dropped in much more.
Yeah.
And I think it's not necessarily to do with the church, it's to do with the cultural situation needs.
Well, it's a cultural thing, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
In Sarandi Grande, for instance, we had a young man who always dropped in just in time for tea.
Of course.
And in Birmingham, Moseley Road, we had an elderly lady who usually dropped up at tea time. She refused to eat anything, but she knew that we were all there. So.
And there are good biblical precedents for this, aren't there? If you look at the life and ministry of Jesus, he's turning up at people's houses. He's saying, "Give me tea, give me dinner." He's you know, at parties. He's there. He's in amongst it, and sees that as important. So that hospitality thing is.
And we've gone into a very individualistic society. When I first came to England, it just wasn't there. You see. So we've got to work a lot. That's a great contribution we can make to our society, to our church, to us all. You know? Yeah, we could mention many instances in the Bible, and Paul underlines, do not forget hospitality, because through hospitality people in the past have received angels. Not necessarily angels with wings, but important people.
Yes. So a good start might be, I know that this service is followed by a barbecue.
Oh, good.
That's a good idea.
And so people should stay and share in that, because they might meet people or talk to people and maybe meet someone new and have a good conversation. And as you say, meet that angel, that Biddulph angel.